Hey there guys, PC Guy here, and if you have been in a situation like me in the past where you have a small SSD that holds your system and you want to have a game or two in there to play more often, you have probably been in a situation where you have really low available drive space on your SSD or on your Windows drive, and then there's an update to Windows, and then there's an update to the game, and then this program and the drivers of the graphics card need updating, and end of the day you're kind of juggling files and programs around and you have no space to do anything at all, and it's affecting your PC's performance, and it's just not sustainable to have it at all like that. Thankfully, there are a few ways that you can scrounge a few gigabytes of hard drive space that are being used unnecessarily. I will be showcasing 7 ways to do that, to get a few extra gigabytes of space. Some of them are very simple, some of them are very obvious, others are a bit more, let's say, hidden, and there are things that people usually don't think about. One of those, for example, is Hibernation on Windows. It's a function that lets you start your computer faster when you put it to sleep mode or hibernation mode. And it's a feature that, while very handy, it takes up space on your drive because it saves stuff on your drive to speed up the boot up process. That is one of the examples. I'm kind of spoiling the video, but that is one of the examples of things that are not straightforward and are not easily thought of when you think, oh, what am I going to do to free up some drive space? Now, like I said, I will be going through 7 different ways to do this. Some of them will give you a big boost, some of them will free a lot more space. Others, you will not free much, but it's always something. So here we go, and enjoy. My first stop before anything else is usually to run a cleaner program to clean out, for example, temporary files and other things that you might not even know are there, but are taking space. For example, when Windows does an update, it might leave behind some temporary files once in a while that don't get cleaned up properly. It has actually happened to me, and then that will just be taking space in your drive, doing basically nothing. Now, my preference goes to CCleaner. It's a free program. You can download it at ccleaner.com. It's a very small, very non-intrusive program. You don't have to keep it running. You just have to run it once in a while, whenever you feel the need to, and basically clean up some of your space on your drive. Now you can go ahead and download it. I already have it downloaded, so I will just show you how it works. So this is the CCleaner interface. You just want to go here and select everything that you want to clean up. If you do go and select all the settings for example, internet browsers, make sure that both here and on the others, if you use Chrome or Firefox, make sure that you keep an eye on what is actually selected. Otherwise, you might end up deleting stuff like your saved passwords, your internet history, that you might want to hold on to for one reason or another. In any case, after going through these tabs and selecting the things that you want to get rid of, and perhaps, just check what you have, it's also an option, just go ahead, click Analyze, and wait for you to complete. Once the scan is actually completed, you can see that in my case, for example, I had a whopping 23 gigabytes of files that can be deleted. This includes, for example, recycle bin files that this comes mostly from the videos that I've been making and shots that I delete. Memory dump files, temporary files. You can actually check exactly what files they are if you click view all files. But in any case, this is a list of all the files that you can get rid of without having an impact on your PC. After that, just hit run CCleaner and it will get rid of the files for you, and you will be done with it. Another alternative to that is to use the Windows cleanup system that's inbuilt with Windows itself, and you don't need anything to access it, although it has a bit fewer options. You just head to Properties on the hard drive you want to clean, you hit up Disk Cleanup, and it will quickly calculate whatever files there are that can be deleted. As you can see, there are still 8 gigabytes of temporary files that can be deleted without harming the computer performance in any way. This is here because I did not actually run CCleaner and I wanted to leave the files there for demonstration. But yeah, now you can see this is another way to clean up also a few uh, gigabytes of free space. Keep in mind that if you do run CCleaner, you probably won't find anything extra here because CCleaner is usually more comprehensive in cleaning than Windows this cleanup is. So running both is probably a bit of overkill, and I would just run CCleaner if I were you. Something else that might also be eating up your disk space is the Hibernation option from Windows. Now, it is a very handy option that lets you put your computer into hibernation, and whatever programs and files and apps you have open that are being stored in RAM for easier access and faster access when you're actually using them, they will get written to the disk temporarily so that they can load up faster when you wake up the PC from hibernation, as opposed to a pure cold boot from turning the PC on. Now, it is a very handy setting, especially for systems that are not as fast or modern and still have older components and run a little bit slower and will take longer to actually load those settings and programs from nothing. But it does eat up some disk space because let's say that you have 8 gigabytes of RAM being used, or 16, or however much you have being occupied at the moment that you hibernate, all that information will be written in the hard drive. That means that the system will reserve, let's say, 16 gigabytes of hard drive space to write those files to when they are needed for hibernation. So that would be several gigabytes that are in use that don't necessarily need to be in use, especially if you have a faster machine. Now, the way that you can disable hibernation, and that this means that you will not be able to use hibernation at all, but you'll free up that space. The way you do it is you can just go to your search bar, type run for a command prompt, type cmd, and simply paste this command line onto the window, powercfg space / hibernate off. Just press enter and this should turn off hibernation and hopefully free up some space from the hibernation file that you had on your computer. If at any point in the future you wish to reactivate the hibernation function because you have enough space and you like the way that the function is used, just go back to the command line as we are now and just type the same but without the off at the end. So powercfg space / hibernate. This will re-enable your hibernation and you can proceed to use it as usual. Another option that you can use is, for example, to move certain files and applications and programs to another hard drive other than your Windows hard drive, which is usually an SSD that are smaller and therefore a bit more space constricted. So if you want to free up some space in your Windows drive, you can just go to the programs, and certain programs, not all of them, the vast majority does not allow this, but it's a possibility. For example, Adobe Access, you have a move button here. You can simply move it to a different drive. How does this differ from just copy pasting the application? Because when an program is installed, usually on the registry for Windows and the connections to other programs, it gets a file path. If you simply copy paste the application to a different drive without doing it properly, the other programs that might use files from that application and might connect to it will not be able to find it, and it will not work properly in most of the cases. So doing it the proper way like this is a way to ensure that you will still be able to use the program to all its functionalities without any problems or issues at all. Other option that is kind of simple and obvious and often overlooked is to go through the application list and check what can you actually lose from here. A lot of us, we install programs, we use them once or twice because we needed them, and we never touch them again. So they just end up staying here, taking space, and just piling up on top of each other, and our hard drives and SSDs keep getting fuller and fuller and fuller. Like, for example, I have used Intel Extreme Utility to stress test my motherboard when I was overclocking. It's not even that the best for program to stress test your motherboard with, or your CPU, I apologize. And I still have it here. It's taking 90 megabytes. Sure, it's not a lot, but the same could be said for other things like games you don't use. Uh, all sorts of things that you could have installed in the past and are taking space. So if you're short on space, take a look at the list and try to figure out if there's something that you really don't need and then get rid of it. Something to also keep in mind, and it's much like the story with the Windows updates that don't clean up their trash properly, is in programs that also update often and regularly and that don't clean up their installers properly. An example of this is, for example, NVIDIA. Uh, it's not so much an issue now because I reinstalled my Windows not so long ago. But if you go check, for example, on your NVIDIA folder, specifically this installer folder here, and it will give you a 1.58 gigabyte folder. Now, it doesn't sound too bad right now, but in the past, my NVIDIA folder was taking up to 16 gigabytes of purely older installation that did not get cleaned up properly over the course of a year or 2 years. So it is also worth keeping an eye on certain programs. In this case, NVIDIA, I can tell you that it does that. And go check how much space they are taking. In NVIDIA's case, it's difficult to clean up properly. Graphics cards, installers, and driver programs are a bit notorious for having their files a little bit convoluted. I have once tried to just plain out delete them, and it did not turn out completely well. I ran into issues with getting the next update that was not showing up. So there are files in the same folder that you can delete and others that you can't. And as you can see, it's kind of a lot of folders, and it's for me, I found that the simplest way, and I'm not saying it's the best, but it's the simplest way, is to just uninstall your graphics card drivers completely. It's not going to stop it from working. You know, you'll still get a picture on your screen, so it's not the end of the world. Uninstall your graphics card, delete the folder, and then reinstall it from scratch. Sure, it might take you a few minutes to do that, but you'll be sure that it is working properly and that you don't delete necessary files because the installation is just done anew. Every once in a while, every few months, I would recommend checking how big the folder is getting and doing some cleanup if necessary. The same applies to other programs that do the same. Will run a small little program that keeps my CPU running at full load if necessary to just generate some passive income. And no, it's not mining, it's literally a matter of sense, but then again, it does not impact my performance. In any case, I'm kind of going off topic. That also is notorious for doing the same. Sometimes I go there and the folder is at like 16 gigabytes when it can easily be at like under 1 gigabyte. So that is another example of there are several programs out there that will keep eating and eating and eating up your space, and you should keep an eye on them if you intend to keep using them. This next tip is not strictly freeing up space, but more in the way of keeping you from getting your C drive too full. Now, you can change on the storage settings where new content will be saved. This goes for documents, music, photos and videos, things that you download, new programs that you install. It's basically the default installation that Windows will install them to. So you can here you go to the settings, system, and then the storage. You can click here, change where new content is saved, and you can make it go to another drive, and then it will be installed by default on that other drive and not on your C drive, which is usually where problems with space arise because, like I said, normally you will want to have an SSD, and those are usually smaller, so it's more prone to have that sort of issues as other drives that you have that are usually bigger hard drive with a 1 terabyte or more of storage. Now, these are some ways to free up space on your C drive. I have specifically steered clear of options like storage sense from Windows that automatically delete files that you might not need and temporary files because I wanted to make sure that you stay in control of when that happens and of what gets deleted because it's just a matter of I personally prefer being in control of what happens on my computer. I've had before that things like restore points were deleted automatically, and then I was looking for a restore point, and it was gone. So I had to do to another restore point, which was not with the one that I wanted. So that's just an example of things that. Of the reasons why I want to keep myself in control of what gets deleted, and all the programs and ways that I have shown you now, they let you decide what gets deleted. For example, CCleaner, you can take at each box and choose if you want, for example, browser history, cache, browser cache, all that sort of stuff. You can choose and you can take them on and off if you get deleted or not, and you are completely in control of what gets cleaned up and what doesn't. In any way, this has been helpful to me in the past. I have had points where I was really, really low in hard drive space, and this has helped me kind of get by until I got to the point where I could upgrade and get a little bit more hard drive space to get by. I hope it is useful for you guys as well. And this has been Attic PC Guy, and I'll see you in the next video.